Good morning. My name is Dr. Carrie Olsen, and I'm the president of the Denver Public Schools Board of Education. I'm joined today by Vice President Jennifer Bacon, along with Directors Tay Anderson, Scott Balderman, and Reverend Bradley Lorvik. Barbara O'Brien and Angela Kobian, two of our other directors, are out of town today and could not join us. It is my pleasure today also to introduce to you some of the other speakers who are joining us this morning. We have Veronica Figoli, Executive Director of the DPS Foundation. We have Blake Hammond, School Leader at Marie L. Greenwood. And Ron Cabrera, Veteran Educator, Leadership Consultant, and former Interim Superintendent of Denver Public Schools. Today, we are excited to share with the Denver Public Schools community that we have entered into contract negotiations with Dr. Alex Marrero, the next leader of Denver Public Schools. Dr. Marrero, yes. Dr. Marrero comes to us today from the City School District of New Rochelle, New York, where he is serving as an interim superintendent and with a decade of experience as a practitioner in New York City Department of Education, our nation's largest and most diverse school system. While we're still working on the details of a contract, we are excited to have Dr. Marrero here today with us and anticipate that he will be named superintendent of Denver Public Schools on June 3rd following a vote of the board. I also neglected to mention that we have many other school leaders standing with us here today from our innovation sector, from our charter sector, and other people in our community who helped us with this interview process. Thank you for being here today. We also have with us today many members of our senior leadership team. I'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate the community effort it took to get us to this point in hiring a new superintendent, as well as thank the ALMA Advisory Group for helping us run an open, inclusive process that included multiple finalists. It was intentionally focused on the most pressing issues in our community. That is, what the community asked for is what the board values, and I'm proud to say this is what we have delivered. Dr. Marrero rose to the top as the best leader for the students, staff, and community of Denver Public Schools. This selection is the summation of the community's interests and desires for our next leader. As a first for Denver, we truly engaged and collaborated with the community to identify and ultimately deliver a leader with the core competencies our stakeholders are seeking. Interview panelists and community members shared support for all candidates, but Dr. Marrero stood out. What we like about Dr. Marrero is his demonstrated record of being engaged with the community. I think he said he's spontaneous but strategic in doing so, bringing people together. His lived experience as a multilingual learner, I learned this morning not only is he fluent in Spanish and English, but his wife speaks Albanian, so they have 3 languages in their home. And his experience in working in New York public schools. We thank everybody who's participated in this collaborative search process with us. We value all of your time, energy, passion, and partnership. Thank you so much. I'd now like to turn it over to Vice President Jennifer Bacon to share a few words.
Thank you, President Olsen. Every member of the Denver Public School Board was motivated by the same passion in our search for a new superintendent. We want all DPS students to have equitable access to the resources they need to succeed in life and beyond our doors. As a board, our role is to balance the many interests of those in our communities. Across our different experiences, cultures, current and historical contexts, we know that we need someone who has a vision that is in alignment to the goals and hopes of our community. At the forefront of our search, we prioritize looking for someone who understands at the root what it means to build relationships and connect to cultures even if they aren't their own. From being an English language learner to a school leader of color, we are fortunate to have identified a leader in Dr. Marrero who has much in common with many of our students, educators, and leaders. Dr. Marrero has shown himself as a leader who is responsive and respects all voices. He is prepared to listen and prioritize authentic interactions with families and students, teachers and administrators, community members, and partners. Once appointed, we are confident Dr. Marrero will move quickly to make Denver Public Schools an excellent place for everyone to learn and work. He is a leader who places students first in every decision, which will be critical as our district emerges from the pandemic and looks towards the future. Overwhelmingly throughout the search process, our community has called for a unifier and expressed a desire to come together around strong public education for our children. We ask all Denver residents to join us in not only welcoming Dr. Marrero, but in partnering with him and with us to ensure our public education system prepares our students to take advantage of the opportunities that the future will certainly bring. We are committed to doing everything possible to support Dr. Marrero, and we invite the community to join us. Help us make Dr. Marrero's success our children's success. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Vice President Bacon. I'd now like to ask Blake Hammond, the principal of Marine Greenwood, to come up to the podium, please.
Good morning, everyone. Today is an exciting day for our Denver community, our DPS employees, and most importantly, our diverse and phenomenal students across Denver. As mentioned before, my name is Blake Hammond, and I'm the proud principal of Marie Greenwood. And I'm extremely thrilled and enthusiastic about our selection of Dr. Marrero as the next superintendent of our great district, Denver Public Schools. I was fortunate to have the opportunity, alongside several other of my fellow principal colleagues, to be a part of the final stages of the superintendent selection process. And I want to say just candidly, I appreciate our board's transparent process and providing the space for the community to engage fully in this process. Prior to engaging in this interview process for the final 3 candidates, I asked a few of my students what they desired in our next superintendent. They expressed that our next superintendent should be someone who honors and values the diverse background of students across Denver. They desire a superintendent who cares who they are about unique and they are creative individuals. And they desire a leader who promotes student voice in all of our schools and who supports who they want to become in life. And not only do they desire these things, they want a superintendent that takes action and actively builds a system across our district that prepares them to be successful in our world today. I can honestly say that we have found that superintendent in Dr. Marrero. As a school leader in Denver Public Schools, I am thrilled to see the rich and informative past experiences that Dr. Marrero has had working with diverse inner workings of schools, whether it be public or charter or innovation or private. And we know that these past experiences will be a major asset as he leads our great district into the future. Throughout our initial conversation with Dr. Marrero, throughout the interview process, and with the other 2 candidates, I came to learn that Dr. Marrero is not someone who is set on maintaining systems and structures just for the sake of maintaining the status quo. He referenced several times that we have to conduct town hall meetings with our students and our community to gather feedback on ways to either enhance our current practices of serving our students or simply build new ones if they are not aligned to promoting the best for our students. This meant a great deal to me because we are in a prime position as a district to be a leader across our nation for innovation work and work with equity, which he definitely will be leading. So I just want to say thank you again to Dr. Marrero. We are extremely thrilled that you will lead Denver Public Schools as we continue to move upward and onward, and as you officially take over, whenever that may be. Please know that you are not alone in this work of ensuring that we provide the best for every single student that walks through the doors at Denver Public Schools. We support you. We are thrilled to have you along this journey with us, and we will work alongside you as we continue to build a strong Denver Public Schools.
Thank you so much, Principal Hammond. We really appreciate that. Next, I'd like to ask Veronica Figoli, President of the Denver Public Schools Foundation, to come to the podium, please.
Good morning. I'm Veronica Figoli, President and CEO of the Denver Public Schools Foundation. The Denver Public Schools Foundation is a strategic fundraising partner for Denver Public Schools. We believe that every child that graduates ready to lead a successful life in DPS, strengthened our city. We have worked in close partnership with the superintendent for over 26 years, and we look forward to doing the same with Superintendent Marrero. Muchas gracias, señor Marrero, por venir a nuestra comunidad, por apoyar a nuestros padres. Y es muy importante que el superintendente de este distrito se pueda comunicar con la mayoría de padres en este distrito que hablan español. It is so important that the superintendent of this district has the ability to communicate in native language with over 60% of parents who speak Spanish. I would also say that we're looking forward to working with Mr. Marrero because we believe that our students depend on DPS, and DPS depends on all of us. We believe that when Mr. Marrero will succeed, our students will thrive. And as a community, I invite everyone to give him the support to welcome him into our wonderful city, a city that welcomed me many times, many years ago. That's what Denver is about. That's what we want to show up to our students. And with that, I want to officially give you our hat of Team DPS. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Welcome to Team DPS.
Muchas gracias, Veronica. Next to the podium, I'd like to call Dr. Ron Cabrera, and amongst his many titles, he was also the former interim DPS superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Olsen. Thank you, Board of Education. Dr. Marrero, what a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm happy to see students out here in the audience listening in, and this is part of the process of both leadership transition and new beginnings of education. So I am Dr. Ron Cabrera. I'm pleased to be here this morning to say a few words regarding the selection of Dr. Alex Marrero as the new superintendent of the Denver Public Schools. So please allow me to provide some context to my comments regarding Dr. Marrero's selection. So I started my teaching career in the Denver Public Schools 42 years ago. I was a principal in the Denver Public Schools. I'm proud to say of Stedman Elementary School. And I've had the pleasure of several senior leadership roles in the Denver Public Schools, including as an interim superintendent. For that reason, I have a fondness and interest in seeing that the good work of the district advances for the success of all its students. And I have a reason to be assured that the superintendent leadership is in good hands. Additionally, I am the past chair of the Colorado Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, and I know the importance, and backed by research, of finding a champion of our underserved students, a leader who can be a role model for all our students, our parents, and our educational colleagues. I believe Dr. Alex Marrero is that champion for us. So certainly you have the opportunity to review his record of leadership and his body of school success, and you'll see the type of leader that will move the DPS forward. I've had the good fortune to have met and worked with Dr. Marrero at the national level during my work with the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, the national organization, and I can attest to his forward thinking, his passion for our children's success, and his skill to connect with stakeholders culturally in every walk of life. Dr. Marrero will undoubtedly bring his passion for equity and education to the forefront of achieving excellence for all students. With a large population of English language learners in Denver Public Schools, it's critically important that we weave the necessary supports into the educational foundation for all our students. I trust and I am confident, and speaking on behalf of Colorado Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, that Dr. Marrero will lead with the understanding and compassion needed to prioritize those students who have historically been underserved. Having communicated with the board, the Koalas board, Colorado Association board this morning, I cannot tell you how excited they are. My words don't give enough expression of excitement and goodwill and support on behalf of Dr. Marrero's selection. Finally, I want to congratulate the Board of Education, who has spent an enormous amount of time and energy to find leadership talent to lead the Denver Public Schools. Their selection of Dr. Marrero is excellent. The board is to be commended for its thoroughness, patience, and decision-making in its selection of Dr. Alex Marrero. So welcome, Dr. Marrero. Thank you,
Muchas gracias, Dr. Cabrera. We really appreciate your remarks. And now let's give Dr. Alex Marrero that warm Denver welcome that Veronica so eloquently spoke about. Y ahora un bienvenidos muy amigable al Dr. Marrero.
I'll put it right here. Thank you. Wow. Right? What an appropriate response. The remark is wow. Thank you all. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, everybody who's in attendance. Thank you, Dr. Olsen, our Vice President, and honorable board members of Board of Education. This is truly, truly a remarkable day for me as an educator, young scholar, turn leader, turn visionary, turn superintendent of Denver Public Schools. I remember when I was a little young buck, and I have to tell you the story that once upon a time there was hair on this head and it covered my eyes. It covered my eyes for two reasons. One, going to the barber shop was something that we couldn't afford, so it was a bowl haircut for little Alexi, but also it served as a barrier because I felt like I didn't belong in the school system. I felt like I didn't fit and I was a burden. So for those little Alexis that may be sitting on the grass right behind those cameras and those across Denver, this is testament that when there's will, when there's a commitment from educators, there is a way to make sure that you overcome. So pardon me while I refer to some key points that I want to hit. I welcome the opportunity to share remarks. Again, this remarkable day. Little Alexi is now Dr. Marrero because of the hard work of those who were in front of me and also what I had to overcome. So imagine a world in which a student doesn't have to figure it out for themselves. That's what I'm working towards. I feel like my life experiences and my practical professional experiences have prepared me to be here in Denver. And coming here, my family and I are looking forward to being part of this community. We will live here. Where? To be determined. But my little girl Alexa, is going to embark in the most treasured experience that an American going into the school system. She starts kindergarten here. Again, to be determined. I already started vetting some folks. Something that's important to me is dual language, as we heard, so that narrows the scope a little bit, right? But if we can't do it at home, we're going to do it in the institutions, and Denver has that. So I'm excited for my little girl, my precious little man, Axel, who's going to follow a couple years after, and of course my wife and I for setting up shop, as I say, but also building roots in this incredible community. Coming here, I look forward to getting to know the community. We heard quite a bit about what I've done, and that's not a trademark, that's not strategy per se, it's how I lead. You heard Dr. Olsen say, spontaneous but strategic. Yes, I seized the moment. We all as educators know how important it is to have that teachable moment. Nothing changes when you're the superintendent. If anything, it's magnified, right? So the impact that you'll have by seizing that moment is tremendous. So I've been known to take you out for a talk, you for a deeper conversation, and we'll get to the pushing of the papers later, right? Because that's always going to be in City Hall and central administration. But seizing the moment is that spontaneity and also stuck to the strategic plan of the district. I have three core beliefs that always anchored that spontaneity. You'll hear me talk about it often. One, every student deserves intellectual, social, and emotional respect. That's been challenged more than ever before during this pandemic. Intellectual, in terms of how we're going to deliver an instruction. Have we really expanded the gap? Are we really meeting the needs of all of our students? Social, clearly, those who are not connected, the nurturing aspect of the work that we do, the oath, the unofficial oath that we take to make sure that we are mothers and fathers and guardians to those students that are your child. And of course, when it comes to the emotional, we've suffered tremendous losses throughout this past year. I have as well in my district. And we have to make sure that we link more than ever that family and school connection to make sure we don't lose a life, whether it's something tragic or because we've disconnected to the point that we've lost a child because they can't succeed. My vision and core beliefs took shape through my education as a student and as I cut my teeth in the largest school system in the nation. I was a scholar. That young boy, Alexei with the bangs, who made it out the hard way, was one of 1.2 million students. Talk about getting lost in the system. That can never happen. I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen here with the collaboration of all. That scholar turned practitioner in the New York City Department of Education, it's impossible to really make inroads and make impact unless you're doing great work and you're really, really leveraging the community. I was able to do that and quickly became one of 1,800 principals who shined during their tenure in New York City. So in terms of the macro and the complexities, yes, it's what built me as a scholar turned practitioner. The nuances of leading during a pandemic as a superintendent has prepared me for those nuances that come in, meaning no matter what the conversation is or what the dilemma is, I know that I can not only contribute, but also lend some value. Whether it's those lug nuts on the bus that are loose, to the most important part of the contract negotiations and sealing the deal for a unit, I've been in those conversations. And I have to say, 1 year of leading a district during a pandemic equates to a decade of being a superintendent in my book. As a child, I was often placed in the deficit mode of learning, treated as a burden. That's Alexei, the younger brother of Manuel, the cousin of Miguel. He lives on that side of Fordham Road in the Bronx, counted out before I was given the opportunity. That's what drives me. And respectfully saying, those who are doubtful, you have every right to be doubtful. You don't know until we really engage. But that is what drives me. That complex and being able to really pursue equity and excellence for all students is what has driven me to be successful, and it's also going to lend itself to success here in Denver. In terms of what excellence could potentially look like in Denver, performance gaps in any capacity, whether it's gender, sex, religion, ethnicity, are unacceptable. Right, a lot of discovery needs to happen on my end. I was able to gather quite a bit during the interview process, but not enough. So those intimate conversations need to happen before the appointment, as soon as possible. True academic success requires not only raising the bar is here for all students. Eliminating those obstacles is what I've been able to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it here. If we rid obstacles in the path of success, we will be successful. It's as simple as that. It's complex, but that is the core underlining statement. Let's talk about how remarkable this is. Here I am sharing remarks, but I really want to highlight how remarkable this district would be. If students are challenged, students have choices, their voices are heard, and also get ongoing feedback. How remarkable in any system. How remarkable in a system where educators believe all students and all educators are empowered to make and take risks and are rewarded for their energy and commitment. And how remarkable for a community where every day, not only we tell our students how important education is, but we show them that we believe in them and how powerful education is in helping achieve their dreams. I'm looking forward to engaging in that remarkable journey. This is day one of a truly remarkable journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marrero. We really appreciate those remarks. Mil gracias. And now we will take some questions, Vice President Bacon, myself, and Dr. Marrero. Yes.
Obviously, his qualifications stood out for the board, but there's at least one parent and maybe other parents who are raising concerns about Dr. Marrero not being a school teacher before and not being selected for the district as superintendent. That's what we've heard from one parent. So that's what I just wanted to find out if that parent had raised issues with the Denver School Board about that.
We have heard the concerns from community members who are concerned that perhaps Dr. Marrero hasn't spent enough time in the classroom or isn't isn't from the Southwest, all of these things. I would ask us all to think of what a great leader does. What a great leader does is create conditions for everybody to do their best work. He's a multilingual learner. He understands, while not exactly the same as some of our students, the values that he has, as we've heard, are the same as many of our families. They want their children, as Vice President Bacon always says, want their children to be educated, want them to be safe, want them to get from point A to B, and to be able to be seen and heard for who they are. And I think we heard that strongly in Dr. Marrero, the idea that he wants all students to be seen and heard for who they are. And as a former classroom teacher, of course, I always think about classroom experience, right? That's something that we all will work together as a team. Not one candidate will check all of our boxes, but we do see in Dr. Marrero someone who will inspire people to continue to do the best by their students and by their faculty in their schools, and really make sure that all of our students reach their potential. Be seen and heard for who they are, as Dr. Bacon always reminds us. Dr. Marrero, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Olsen. And as always, as those who are wondering and the skepticism that comes along with such a shift, it's welcomed, right? Because it keeps me sharp, specifically to the question asked. This came up in the interview process, and I loved the interview process because it was so rigorous and it really checked every piece on both ends, me as the candidate and also Denver Public Schools, I'm sure, in terms of making the right decision. And many educators and leaders started their career in the classroom several decades ago. And the point I always make is I'm an educator to this day. I fly back tomorrow, and tomorrow evening I have a synchronous class from Manhattan College. So I'm in the classroom, the virtual classroom, and I have been for the past 6 years. So the remote learning was something that I was able to really bring into the forefront in my district. However, I want to acknowledge that pushing the chalk is a great way to really earn your stripes. But I also know that what happened 20 years ago in the classroom is not a cookie-cutter system in which you can apply it here. So it's less about where you started, it's more about the journey and also how you collaborate with the folks who are innovative. And I have folks in the background who are doing incredible work in the areas of teaching and learning and curriculum instruction that I'm just eager to learn from them. So I have no qualms in saying what I do not know. I'm the most ignorant person standing up here right now in terms of Denver Public Schools. But I know that much. And I'm looking forward to continuing being the learner. And before we were teachers, we were all students. So instead of going back to the classroom, I go back to the desk, right? As a student, what do we want? And we all have that. We all share that. But I welcome those concerns because, again, it keeps my show start. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Winner? Sorry.
Absolutely. May I?
Oh, please.
The same formula, right? In terms of making sure that I lend more than just an ear. Intimately connected, hear those concerns, acknowledge those concerns, validate those concerns. But again, those are going to fuel not only, it's not a matter of proving wrong, it's making sure that I can address whatever voids folks may have, right? And it may not be Dr. Marrero, it may be the team. I'm sure there's a lot to highlight in DPS that perhaps I can be that person who sheds the light on, but intimately connecting immediately. Right? And not just with that group, all groups, right? So they'll be part of the fabric. But I really want to know what the concerns are, because it could be well beyond Dr. Marrero or the candidate or the process. There could be something rooted that I really need to get to. And that's what I've done as a leader, making sure that I, again, lend more than just an ear and understand what the true core issues are so we can build it into a strategic plan to address it. Thank you. Equity has become a little bit of a buzzword now in education. So you mentioned equity and equal. Those are two very distinct things. In terms of the approach, very similar to my response to the former question. It's engaging the students, right? The students, back to that student that we all were sitting behind the desk, engaging student voice, and really, at the same time, in tandem, a deep data analysis. I'm in no position to really call anything at the moment, right? The most ignorant person standing behind the podium is Dr. Marrero at the moment. However, that needs to happen first, to really identify what the gaps are and then what are the factors that have attributed to it. But oftentimes, the students are left out of the equation. The educators in all capacities are brought into the fold. Leaders, teachers, staff members, community members, the students are the ones who know. I'll simplify it by saying, before you diversify your course catalog, you need to take a student inventory. Right? Before you address the inequities or disparity, you can do a data analysis, but you also need to engage the students to see if they feel the same, one, but also they can highlight something that maybe something quantitative does not. So that's a two-prong approach, but it's all really around the listening tour. So that's step one in everything that's going to be asked right now. Thank you.
Just for the board, we've heard from some in the community that they feel the process was rushed. Do you guys feel the process was rushed? And would you consider pausing for a moment to hear out those concerns of those in the community?
Sure, thank you for the question. And you heard a moment ago from Dr. Marrero about the process. The board is really proud in being able to have reviewed concerns, hopes, fears, sentiments from our community to build the process that we created. For the first time in a long time, we were able to provide multiple finalists to our community that our community had access to. And we were able to include different stakeholders in this process to not only have their voices raised and elevated, but for us to receive their feedback so we can make this selection. In regards to the time, we took a good amount of time. As you know, we are also in a landscape where a few districts were looking for superintendents. And the time that we took, again, was to honor our community, their wishes, and their voices. So again, just to reiterate, the process was very unique, but it was uniquely Denver in that it was responsive to asks from our communities on access, input, as well as feedback. And we're proud of the decision that we made, and we're looking forward to moving forward.
Thank you for the question. The most immediate need, before I could get into the practicality of the work, is really understanding. So for me, as truly doing a deep dive and a listening tour, and that's the pre-entry plan, if you will. That's going to happen, as I said, as soon as we wrap up here and I start having intimate conversations. So that's the very first step, and it'll be a little bit unfair for me to pick one, right? So I'm going to give you several themes if I can. Everything when it comes to the inequity, to the earlier question, and disparity, so really looking at the Black Excellence Plan, which again, Denver is leaps and bounds ahead of districts across the nation because they have a resolution. I haven't seen that in the States. But looking at the intimate plans at the school level, I would like to really analyze and assess those. When it comes to our multi-language learners and our multilingual learners, the consent decree and the implications and how are we, where's the progress? So that's bucket 2, if you will. Bucket 3, which really should be bucket 1, is the most immediate. Where are we with the reentry? What are the plans for August? And where are we in terms of making sure that our students are safe and secure? We have taken the safe and security for granted until COVID hit, right, and pandemic. And we send our students and our loved ones to school hoping that they get a rich education, but oftentimes we never question if they were going to be safe and secure. That's been put on the forefront. So that's number 1, actually, right? COVID reentry, the plan for the 21-22 school year, really diving into the Black Excellence Plan, everything that is the consent decree, the multi-language learners. But before all of that, listening and learning from the folks who are standing behind me and the folks who I'm going to meet shortly today and when I return. So that's the practical step one, listening and learning.
On this a little bit, but there are members of the community that wanted somebody that had more background in addressing the needs of English language learners in terms of meeting their needs, getting them up to speed. And I guess, do you have a specific comment to that community about your background, any experience you've had in that?
Sure. So I welcome the comments and the remarks. That's first. Second is, without getting into, I guess, in the defense mode, it's more of, I have intimate experience, right? From the K-12 continuum, when I was a building principal, and also making sure that our students who came in, the best story is one of my students who came in from the Caribbean country, speaking only Spanish, as a rising junior and became valedictorian of the school that I was an assistant principal of, to more systemic changes as a system in which we had students with similar broken education, if you will, who were not literate in their own native language, who not only became honor roll students, but graduated with a seal of biliteracy, which a lot of adults would hope that they can get. So those are the nuances. So it's not just a statement. What I would say is I welcome the criticism, but I think that folks need to do a deeper dive. And if it's not something that is easily seen, then I'll be more than willing to have those conversations with them. It's part of my fabric, right? Because I had to do it the hard way. So I made sure that for the students that I'm serving, that they wouldn't have to go through the ordeal that I had to just to make it out. So I welcome the conversation.
Thank you, everyone.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we really appreciate all of you being here today. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí hoy. Also, a special shout out to our students in the back who were here today. Thank you, students, for being here. And all of our leaders who are here today who joined us to welcome Dr. Marrero.